Hi, welcome to Quirky Queen's Journals. My name's Kirsten. So I've been making some little doodle books, just using paperback covers and so that I can go back to them and then add to them. So for the first 7 minutes, it's a flip through. So what I've done with this one is it's blue. It's the blue book. So I've doodled with a blue Posca pen. I've used some soft pastels and I've used some ultramarine high flow acrylic paint. So I can go back to these and add to them. Because I used overlay paper, drawing paper, it's only 50 GSM, so you can actually see on both sides. So I just did one side of each page. Now, this is the same, but you can see those kind of Linocut stamps to the side. So I've been doing a lot of kind of, designing. I say designing. I've been kind of working out what shapes and patterns I want to use. Some of them are in here. I've also been doing some sort of trying to draw gestural lines. And so some of that's in here as well. You'll see it more towards the end, actually. They are just diary pages from the book that's at the bottom. Because initially these were in the book that's at the bottom and I moved them out. I just thought I'd give you a flip through. I've never done a flip through. Well, I've done like an altered book or a junk journal, but I've never actually shown you all the stuff that I do before I make things. Sometimes I just make them spontaneously though. So I made these books by just putting them through the sewing machine up the middle. What I'm showing you with this one is the thread. I wasn't a complete straight line and I was slightly off to the side. So it meant that it was just a little bit hard. It was still easy enough to turn the pages, but it wasn't as smooth as it could have been. So to make that cover, this one here, I did it on the gelli plate and then I used soft pastels. So I just did some soft pastels on paper and then transferred them onto the gelli plate. Now what I've chosen for this is I've basically went quite dark and I've chosen pages that I've used for image transfers. That is a good image transfer page. So they've got a lot of black paint on them, or maybe they were just a bit less successful. The colours, they were just a bit, I want to say dull. They don't look dull. But do you know what I mean? They weren't kind of keepable prints. They weren't ones that I would want to frame or anything. So it's just a mixture of that, just a lot of busyness, imperfections. And then it's just to see what I can do from there. I think having a lot of the black will be quite useful. So there we go. It's like the cover and the inside pages are very bright, but then it's all dark inside. So these are just some old random coming up with composition ideas, shapes and lines mainly. A lot of oil pastel work. This is like an old granny, the one on the right, and then that's like a gnome in the toilet, the one on the left. That's just my feelings. So this is me doing some Linocut designs there. I will link the video where I actually went through that process. That is a gelli print. So what I do as well when I make, when I'm designing what I want to do, I kind of draw it out. I cover it in charcoal. I take gelli prints of it. I've done some colouring in of it just to see what can be achieved with it. I've done the one on the right, I've still to do the one on the left. I like that one on the left because it's like somebody running. So really this is just a lot of kind of what I do when I'm thinking about things, and it's not really finished works, but maybe one day it might be. So that's actually the room in the art club that I go to. It's in a school. So I've done a Linocut of that. It was in an oil pastel drawing and then I've actually made a Linocut of it. It's a bit basic, but actually it was a good experience to make it. And the Linocuts, I'm really making... Oh, my grandson made that when he was 5. I was teaching him the gelli plate. Some of them are plant transfers, which is an old video. I'll try and link that as well. That's an image transfer. Maybe not that exact page, but one like it. That's like a tree. That's a watercolour stencil. This is some old videos. Now, I chose that I put that square next to this one because it's like the same colours, but they've got different kind of values and tones to them. Tones, is that right? Right, the technical term escapes me, but I might not even know it in the first place. But the point was that I felt that actually they were I liked the way the colours worked together. So when I said about the Linocuts as well, I'm not using these in the sort of strict way that you would use Linocuts, you know, for proper print making. I'm using it just to help sort of make more abstract art and sort of trying to learn more about lines and shapes and the elements of art. That's really what I'm trying to do. I'm just trying to use different methods to see what I can achieve. So I'm just showing you that sort of rectangle stencil in the book. I actually broke it up and then I made the cover of the blue book with it. So yes, that's me showing you that I took quite a few pages out of the diary. So I've got some loose ones now. But I've really been enjoying this, and I feel like I'm making a bit of progress with it. I still obviously have a lot to learn. I still need some guidance along pathways to go to progress, but I do feel like I'm diving deeper into things. So that's the 50 GSM layout paper I was showing you there. And it's very translucent. So that was gold acrylic paint and some gold high flow acrylic paint. I've kind of went from the flip through to making the little book, the little doodle book. So I showed you the paperback cover, and that's what I'm using as the base. This is me making the cover for it. So I'm using these Linocut stamps. That's what I'm going to call them, Linocut stamps that I've made. And this is what I'm going to make the front cover with. Now, I'm using Carnival tissue paper, which is wet strength. It's very sturdy. And you need to use an opaque paint with it so that it covers the front cover. This is me showing you areas where the paint hadn't lifted onto that cover. You could see the book cover coming through, which is fine. I'm totally happy with that. But overall, I want the look of it being covered with just parts of it showing through. So this, I was hoping the gold would be a bit stronger than it was. I actually feel like, see when that dries, it does have that, you know, like the curtain upholstery material. It has that kind of look to it. So this is me now making the pages. So I have 12 pages to put in the book, which gives 48 sides. And I'm just mark making, basically. Black heavy body acrylic paint, picking it up with the pages. So I'm just kind of, as Kerry the crafter would say, I'm just kissing it, just on and off. But then some of the pages I'll leave down for longer. We're wanting variety. So I just show you snippets of the sort of mark making that I'm doing and how I'm lifting it off the gelli plate. I do a full flip through at the end of it. Although I do spend quite a lot of time with this one, I will admit. So this book is the black, gold and white book. I just thought, let's keep it quite simple. But because I'm doing this one in video, we'll add a bit of luxury with the gold. And I will put a full supply list in the description box. So I'm just adding gold paint to pull what's left on the plate. Now, to make these pages, it's very much a quick process. You're not hanging about waiting on paint drying. If the paint's still wet, well, we'll lift some of it that way until it's dry, and then we'll lift it with another colour. That's just kind of the theory that I'm using here, because these pages are starting pages to, build on, to use as practice, to see if there's sort of composition elements that we've created without realising. And I haven't made a little book for ages. For a long time. I keep making pictures, and you do go through phases. You naturally gravitate towards, especially if you've done something you're quite proud of or you want to investigate further. And for me, this is just an extension of doing the Linocuts, the Linocut stamps that I've been making. So I add the white to some, and some I just put it on its own page. I also, because I sell second-hand books on eBay, that's my kind of source of income. I have a lot of, books that are maybe damaged, or they don't have any value, and they don't bundle very well with other books. So I've got a lot of covers that I can use. So this is gold high flow acrylic paint, and I love the colour of it. This reminds me of Robin McClendon, the mark making she does. And I'm stamping it out onto another page, which, I think's wonderful, because while it's similar, it's changing slightly. So this is the spine for the book, by lifting up sort of what was left of that. So now we're at the stage where we're putting the book together. I'm just using my glue stick, because I find that glue stick does a brilliant job. You get about 5 or 10 minutes if you've changed your mind, and after that, well, it's sturdy. So this carnival tissue paper, that's wet strength, and the overlay drawing paper that's 50 GSM, I find them to be excellent to work with within journals, because they're very thin, but they're actually really quite sturdy. So I just snipped the corners off, and I've done a wee triangle at the spine bits there. So that although these are very thin, there's no point in adding bulk unnecessarily by having little corners that are a bit bumpfled. I try and not use printer paper for it, because I actually find it's just slightly too thick, and so when you're folding edges over, like over the book cover, you're not getting, it's not tightly knitted to it. That was similar mark making to the ones that I did on the pages, but it's a bigger brush, and I think it was a much wetter brush as well. Now that's just normal tissue paper, and you can see the difference. It's just a bit harder to handle. It's a bit more flexible when I'm moving it. And actually, I don't know whether or not it's because it's got an overall black and gold kind of sheen to it, but I feel like it wasn't quite as translucent once I glued it down and it had dried. However, it's a lot cheaper, so I use a mix of both. I kind of keep the carnival for my good prints. So I'm just folding all the pages up, having a footer about, putting them in an order that sort of feels like you don't want all the same marks together. So I'm showing you the sewing now. Just straight up the middle with the sewing machine, and then the thread is hidden with this. And you could do a pamphlet stitch as well. I just find it hard. I'm not very good at keeping it nice and flat. I have a tendency to pull at the pages. And that's us. That's it, mate. So we'll do a wee flip through of it. I actually really like it. Oh, and see those pages? I mean, you could put them through a guillotine or a trimmer. You could trim those up very, very nicely. But I just kept them quite raggedy because it adds to the look. I think it enhances the niceness of the cover. And it's for quickness as well, because I'm using these just to sort of practice on. So we do have a nice variety in there. Some pages are really quite, there's not a lot on, or some pages have lots of little marks on them, and then other pages have quite big marks. So it'd be nice to add white to some of those pages that are very full. And that's them there. Oh, and I put them in the bookcase. And I just love them in the bookcase. Anyway, thanks very much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed. And I hope to see you soon. Take care. Bye.